Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I feel pretty good. Basketball is on my mind, of course, because the draft just completed, and now guys are getting signed in the undrafted market. You know, it's a good time to be an NBA fan, but we know that the dog days of the summer are ahead, so we just enjoy everything that has to do with the NBA now, knowing that it's going to suck come August and September after summer league is over. But you know, a lot of the trades that I think took place shows me that the market is really open. The market is in fact blooming right now in the NBA. So you expect that there's going to be a lot of trades, man. A lot of trades could be possible, and I think that encourages me as it pertains to this particular season, off season. I think we could have a much better off season than we had over the last two off seasons, as it pertains to trades and stuff like that. So yeah, I gave you guys my second round breakdown. I didn't do the greatest job of talking about the teams I thought did winning and losing, because some of the teams that I thought did great, I didn't even mention them as my teams that did so fantastic or what have you. So maybe I'll do another video in that regard. But you know, as it pertains to this draft, I just felt like walking away from it in total, it was a good draft. Overall, it was good players taken. Not so great situations, but you know, if these teams do what they're supposed to do, you will see a great deal of opportunities given to these young players. But there has to be more movement in the NBA in order to create these opportunities, these roster spots for these guys. You know, I think about New Orleans, I think about Brooklyn and what their roster is about to look like. You know, those are two teams that came to mind immediately. I was listening to a podcast this morning. I wish I could give them that credit. I forget, I watch so many people, but I thought it was one of the funniest jokes I had heard. They called the Brooklyn Nets the Brooklyn Netanyahu's. I thought that was hilarious because they drafted two Israelis back-to-back with consecutive picks. And they called them the Brooklyn Netanyahu's. I thought that was super funny. But you know, the Brooklyn Nets, they really have to prove that this can work. I personally think that it can. They just got to get some shooters around those playmakers, because it doesn't really make sense to have a bunch of guys that overpass if they're all passing to one another and none of them are really going for buckets. And so that's where I think the vision kind of looks a little strange to me. I don't believe that the Brooklyn Nets have any intention of all of these people having long-term opportunities with their squad. And I just think that the strategy drafting these people should have been a bit more balanced as it pertains to not just finding one type of archetype and hoping that one of them turns into a Hall of Famer while the others you don't care about, as we've mentioned many times. So I just think the whole thing that the Brooklyn Nets did just exposed just how far away they are from being where they want to be as an organization. And I do think that Sean Marks, you know, he's on the clock, man. Some of the stuff that he's been doing over the last several years, give him a pass because they didn't really have the assets. Gave him a pass. Talent wasn't really there, but this needs to work. What he just did with those 5 draft picks, they need to look good, man. They need to look good, because if these guys fizzle out, or he doesn't capture value for these people, I don't see how Joe Tsai keeps him on. I don't see. You know, I don't know, man. I just don't think that they're run very well, to be honest with you. I don't think they've been run very well at all since they're switched over from Bryn in New Jersey. I don't think they've really done much of anything right, to be honest with you. And this draft was no exception. This is just more of the same from a Brooklyn Nets team that had a really promising start to being in Brooklyn. A very good fan base, a good brand, a strong positioning in the NBA from which to start, but they never wanted to build through the draft. And when they finally get a chance to really do so, they do wacky stuff like this. It just bring nothing but passers to their team and guys from a certain country. I just honestly think that this is like one of the worst run organizations in the NBA right now. And I didn't necessarily feel that way before the draft, because I thought they'd done a good job of bringing draft picks to them, getting the most for some of their stuff when they traded them away. But they got right back to doing Nets stuff, man. And it's just, this is why the Nets are not a very good organization. This is why they've only been to the finals twice in my lifetime. Because they just have always made bad decisions, man. Always. And so I don't expect this is any different. I don't suspect that anybody's looking at what they just did and said, man, let me sign with them. Let a superstar like Giannis say, yeah, let me send me to Brooklyn. Not after what they just did with 5 draft picks. So I personally would give Sean Marks 2 years, maybe 2. I don't know if I'd want him to make a decision for 2 years. But essentially, I want to see what these draft picks look like. If they look good, if they look promising, if one of them could be, a standout and change the look of their franchise forever, then maybe you give them a pass. But just the whole mindset about how they went about drafting, I would clear out that whole war room if I owned the Brooklyn Nets, man. I'd clear that whole out. They wouldn't have nobody left over from this regime at all, bro. I'm just being honest with you. They wouldn't have nobody left over. And I'm higher on the players than I think some people are, really. I'm higher on Igor Dimon than probably everybody is. I actually didn't think that was that bad of a pick, even though I did think it was a reach. I thought it was a reach because I felt that he could probably go a couple spots after. I saw him mocked around 16, 17 at times, but I thought that was misguided based on the homework I had done. I didn't necessarily like 17 people in that first round more than him, you know what I mean, or thought that they fit better in certain situations that maybe he could have been in. So I just think that outright he had a polarizing reputation as it pertains to what type of piece he was. Some people really liked him, a lot of people really didn't, and you're seeing that be represented in how they approach him being drafted as early as he did. I like the player more than that, though. I like the situation for him in a nutshell. If everything else around him would have been drafted properly, Igor Dimon at 8, I didn't hate. Maybe you trade down. Maybe you trade down to get him at like 12 or 13. You know what I mean? 14. Maybe you trade down. That I would have been very pleased with if I were in charge of Brooklyn. Hey, you want Igor Dimon? Cool. We ain't using 8 on him. Let's see if we can get a move done with Portland. He might have been available at Portland. Since Portland wanted to do something brash or whatever, since Memphis wanted to move up, I'd have been engaging with those teams, trying to see, of course, hindsight's 20/20, but just engaging with anybody, trying to see if I could move down with that particular pick and just take Igor Dimon around where consensus thought he was expected to go. That way, you retain the value, but bubble equity, as I like to call it. You retain that value and get your guy. So in a nutshell, I thought he was a bit of a reach, and if you want to assess it from that point of view, you have every right to. And it would be consistent for me to do the same. But as far as him going to the Nets, I thought all of the draft picks that were young freshmen would be best for going to a situation like the Nets, who were basically a blank canvas. So that's really what I saw there, and I just felt like the Brooklyn Nets didn't necessarily take advantage of just the vastness of what all could have been put together. They could have put together a bunch of strong players, they could have put together a bunch of shooting, they could have put together all different types of balanced stuff that would have fit on the team with one another. They could have traded one of those picks and maybe got a future that looked really good, future pick that could look really good. They could have done a lot of things that they went hell-bent on drafting all of them. We're going to draft all of them. And we're going to draft 5 playmakers. And we hope one of them turns out to be great. And the others, we'll just punt those. That's just the worst way, the absolute worst way to approach having 5 draft picks. They were the worst team to have had 5 draft picks in this draft. And we didn't realize that until after they started drafting. So that's what I see there. I really do think that Sean Marks should be fired if these picks don't look great. If they don't absolutely come out and really start to show that they can function with one another, that would be the calling card for me to try to sign somebody else to be the president and GM of this team. And now this shifts me into my next conversation. Shocked the hell out of me to wake up this morning and find out Masai Ujiri is no longer the president of basketball operations and general manager of the Toronto Raptors. But if I'm Joe Tsai, I'm placing a phone call to him right now. I'm sending Sean Marks to the Blue Moon, wherever he go. Thank you. And I'm hiring Masai Ujiri ASAP. And I'm doing the same thing if I'm a lot of these teams in this league, if I'm being honest with you, because Masai Ujiri is one of the premier dudes out there. Now, granted, some of the decisions that have been made over the last 2 years in Toronto I didn't agree with. But him not being a part of the organization today potentially speaks to them not necessarily allowing him to do his thing over the last couple of years. I felt like there may have been a shift in Toronto from decisions that you know that he makes to decisions that you know are not made by him, because he has a calling card about how he operates. And based on how that draft went last night, or the night before, the first round, that spoke to this not being his choice, because he would have drafted the African 7-footer with the fantastic length and shot blocking into a situation where that's kind of what they could use quite a bit of. And they took CMB instead. And I felt like that was, now looking back on it, a signification that they were trying to deviate away from his way of doing things. That's what I took it as. That they did not allow him to choose what he would have likely chose. And this morning, he's not the president anymore. And when you talk about a guy who gambled and won, there are a lot of times we talk about gambles that don't work out. I felt like his gamble worked out with Kawhi Leonard. They traded away DeRozan. That whole situation looked kind of messy, but ultimately it all panned out to them getting a championship. Toronto Raptors were an NBA champion that same year he did it. I thought that should have gave him all the carte blanche in the world. Not to mention that he was the beneficiary of that Carmelo Anthony trade way back in the day. He was on the Nuggets side getting their entire starting lineup for Carmelo Anthony. I thought that was one of the great hauls for a superstar that we had ever seen at that time. Great return. And so he's understood to be one of the best execs in basketball. And in reading up on what's going on there from Toronto fans specifically, people who are reacting to this, their point of view is that they have bad ownership that has control of other teams in the area in different sports, and they ran them teams into the ground, and they're gonna run this team into the ground because they are a losing team of executives, of owners. That's what I took from it. That every team that they own in Canada sucks ass, so to speak. Excuse my language. And that this is just them continuing to put their losing imprint on yet another team that they've owned. So I don't know how much truth that holds, but judging by what I was seeing, that's exactly the consensus in what it is I was reading, that this is a bad ownership and they do losing stuff, and this is the beginning of the end of the Toronto Raptors as we know it. They're about to have a bad run because of this ownership and what they're prone to do. So Masai Ujiri should have a job by the end of the week. I mean, like, if he wants one, literally he should have a job by the end of the week. Literally. And I do think some things would need to be assessed about how things went over the last 2 years with Toronto, because some of the decisions really did not pan out. They really didn't look good. Some of the draft stuff they did, some of the choices they made, I was looking at that stuff and I'm like, this don't feel like Masai Ujiri. And that's the funny thing about it. When I was seeing certain things that Toronto was doing, I'm like, this don't speak to Masai at all. He don't do nothing like this. And of course it failed. I'm like, well, maybe he's just starting to slip. You know, people slip sometimes. But I'm like, this is a guy who is different. He's a different type of mind, man. So I can't see him just going soft or slipping or deviating away from what it is that he does. Because you know when Masai Ujiri is in control of something, because he always does specific things that you know are specific to his imprint. So it's like, if he's still in control of the organization and you're not seeing those things, there has to be something going on that has nothing to do with what he would choose. And that's what I was starting to sense with Toronto over the last 2 years. So from that perspective, I ain't surprised he's not there this morning. I'm not surprised. Especially after that draft pick went the way that it did. That might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. They didn't say he was fired. They didn't say he resigned. They just said he's no longer. I don't know. Amicably walked away? I don't know. But the only championship they ever got came from him doing some cowboy stuff that worked out. So as far as I could tell, they should have been wanting to keep him on board forever. And I don't know who you replace him with, but given the fact that he's probably top 5 in the league at what he does, it's going to be hard to replace him with an upgrade. I'll tell you that. It's going to be very difficult. So we'll see. Try to walk past this thing. I thought that was a bit of big news, man. Masai's not in place, and I can think of about 5 organizations without even really giving too much thought to it that need to be placing a phone call to see if he wants to take over the job, man. Golden State Warriors, definitely one of them with Mike Dunleavy. Out of it. Brooklyn Nets, Portland Trail Blazers. Get people out of there, man. They're doing bad stuff. The Pelicans, they all need Masai Ujiri right now. Those teams need Masai Ujiri. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers place a phone call too. I really like what Rob Pelinka's been doing, but I've been calling for us to hire a president for a long time now. I've been doing that. I don't expect the Lakers to do that necessarily, but it wouldn't be overly surprising to see that they would hire him a year from now or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me at all. How you doing, man? How you doing? Good, bro. You have a good day, man. You too, brother. And that's what it comes down to, man. I really think that Masai Ujiri... I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, brother. No, I don't smoke, man. That's what I think. I think Masai Ujiri is going to likely have a job very soon. And if in the event he does, I would expect that he's going to continue doing the things that he does. Getting players that are from Africa are likely going to be able to play some defense or rebound. Like, it's what he do. It's what he do. And it's probably going to work. And he's going to be a monster when it comes to making trades. He's likely going to try to keep it very lopsided, headed in his direction. He cutthroat. He probably going to lie to the players and stuff like that. If it's in his best interest to do so, he's different type of mind, man. And maybe his personality to rub people the wrong way. I've seen him do things that rub people the wrong way. But he won the championship doing things his way, and you got to give him credit for that. You got to give him credit for that. So his resume speaks for itself. I very much think that man's going to have a job as soon as he wants one. I could think, like I said, 5 teams probably need to make a phone call toward him right now. So, yeah, man, that was surprising, man. They got some good execs out there unemployed, man. You talking about Bob Myers. You talking about Masai Ujiri. You know what I'm saying? So some of y'all teams that ain't run properly, Milwaukee Bucks, some of y'all teams that ain't run properly, y'all need to consider calling this man, these people. Y'all need to throw some money at these people and see if they'll undo some of the mistakes that were made by the previous regime. Because y'all ain't going nowhere. Some of y'all teams are not going anywhere, man. I'm just being honest. Some of y'all doing things that we know right now has a very low probability of being successful. Low. And your teams are going to be really bad in the future, man. Some of that stuff, I wouldn't even want to see some of it unfold, to be honest with you. If I were ownership, I wouldn't even want to see what some of this looks like as it pans out. Maybe it could work out, but I wouldn't want to see it through. Like the Nets situation, I wouldn't want to see that through, man. Like, I'm trading them dudes fast. Them rookies they just picked up, I'm already fielding calls for some of them dudes. If I'm the ownership, I'm firing Sean Marks today. I'm hiring one of them 2 execs tomorrow, and then I'm trading some of them rookies that these idiots just picked up. Immediate. because they don't fit with one another. You can see it on paper, they don't fit with one another. You know, if you want to keep the two Israeli dudes, they fit. I like their style of play. It fits in Brooklyn based on what y'all got going on. I don't have no problem with that. Keep those guys. But Mel Traore's brother, Nolan, yeah, we moving him. If you're gonna keep the other two, maybe Igor Dimin, I'll probably move him too. Even though I like Igor, I'll probably move him and capture value for them before they find themselves in situations where their value's dwindling to hell in a situation that's not expected to even work. I wouldn't even see that through, man. I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't, man. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think the Nets should really consider, man. I don't think they should even go through with some of the stuff they just did. I don't even want to see it unfold, because the likelihood that it fails is very, very high, and there's no reason to go down that path. There really ain't. So yeah, that's what I think. And also what's going on in New Orleans, like I said, I'll double back to them. I like the pickups of the two players that they picked up, but they are in a situation where the more you look at the roster, the more you wonder if there's any path to them really looking good in that situation. But Derek Queen specifically, I didn't really love the landing spot, and I've gone back and forth about this in my head. I didn't really love the landing spot for Jeremiah Fears, unless they're moving on from DeJounte Murray, who's got like 3 years left on his deal. If they can move on from DeJounte Murray in a fair enough time for him to get an opportunity, that's fine. Maybe not year one, because I don't think he's ready in year one, but you really do need to move on from DeJounte at the deadline or something like that. That needs to happen. And I don't know what the landing spot really worked for him. I don't know who would want him right now. I'm not really sure. Especially coming off the injury. I don't think he's in a space where he's much desired right now. And then there's Queen. It's like, okay, I like Derek Queen as a player in very specific situations. Do you have that situation if you're the New Orleans Pelicans? And the answer is not based on what I see on paper. He's not. He and Zion Williamson, in my mind's eye, could be fun as a tandem. One of them's playing, the other one's sitting down. They're not on the floor at the same time, but they can do similar things, and they're both big bodies, ball handling bigs that can make plays for others. Not particularly great defensively. It's not a seamless fit, but you can always have somebody on the floor who's big, who can be very difficult to deal with, very difficult to guard. So from that standpoint, in a nutshell, I don't hate both of those players on the same team in the right situation, but that situation has to be created. And Derek Queen needs the ball in his hands. Zion Williamson needs the ball in his hands. DeJounte Murray needs the ball in his hands. Jeremiah Fear needs the ball in his hands. It's a lot of basketball. It's a lot of players who need the ball and only one basketball. So what are you going to do with that? Some of the players that they got I really like, though. I'm not down on the players of the Pelicans. I was listening to somebody talk about that this morning. They're down on the players as a whole, and they hate the fit. I am definitely not down on the individual talents on that roster. Absolutely not. Guys like Jordan Hawkins, obviously talk about Jose Alvarado. When I think about the Pelicans, he's one of the first people come to mind. And given what I just saw TJ McConnell do in the finals, I think Jose Alvarado should probably be a player that somebody should want, because he's going to give you a lot of that same energy. He's not as efficient of a shooter necessarily, but he can shoot a little bit, and he's a monster to deal with. Absolute monster. Going to bring a lot of heart to your team. If you're trying to win and you don't have a lot of winners on your team, Jose Alvarado is probably somebody you need to go after. I'd love to see him in a winning situation. I'd love to see him on a team like the Rockets or something like that right now. A team that's really trying to do something, because the Pelicans is just a waste of what it is he brings to the table. But I like him. Trigger Murphy, one of my favorite players in all of basketball, period. Love what he does. Yves Messi was a good rookie. He showed up last year and the opportunities given. He looked great. I think he's going to have a nice, promising future as a center. Jordan Poole, I'm much higher on than most. Even though I do think he's a hell of a wild card, I think he's matured a lot too. And I saw him be productive last year. Maybe not necessarily on the court because I didn't watch a lot of him, but owning him in fantasy basketball showed me that he was more consistent than he had been in the past, for whatever that's worth. He also averaged a lot of steals, even though people think he can't play defense. He surely comes up with the basketball a lot. So these are the type of things that I just think of him and I say he's a pretty good player. I didn't hate the trade that sent CJ McCollum to Washington and sending Jordan back like most people do. And the reason why is because I understand that Jordan Poole has 2 years on his contract. And if you're talking about which one of these pieces looks more likely to have a better path forward for a team like New Orleans, it's Jordan Poole's 2-year contract. Because what's likely to happen is you try to trade CJ at the deadline, and 9 out of 10 times CJ is hurt around that time of year. So as an expiring contract, if you let him start the season, if things go the way they normally go, you run the risk of him not being an asset when you're forced to trade him. Or you're going to lose him for nothing or have to overpay him. And at 31 years of age, you got to ask yourself, expiring CJ, starting the season on a bad team where he's going to get nothing but shots up and have to defend people, is that really a good expiring contract for a team like New Orleans, who's already had him for a couple years, who's likely to lose him for nothing if for some reason they can't trade him at the deadline? Or would you rather bring in a guy like Jordan Poole, who's 25 years old, on a 2-year deal, let him play out the season with your young team, and then next year he's a more attractive expiring contract who's more likely to be healthy when it's time for you to trade him at the trade deadline? I just think that I'd rather have Jordan Poole on a 2-year deal than potentially CJ on a 1. CJ is just 31 years old, and I just don't trust his health a lot of the times. He's had a lot of issues, man. A lot of issues. And so an expiring contract for somebody that valuable as it pertains to what he can do and how much he's expected to get paid in the market, if he ain't healthy when it's time to trade him, now you're out of something that is very valuable. That's how I'm looking at that CJ situation for New Orleans. So I thought, more or less, when you talk about trying to move him on an expiring deal, trading him now before the season starts when he can't do nothing to hurt himself for a young guy on a 2-year deal looks like a very good decision to me. That looks like a very good decision to me. Now, a lot of people are down on Jordan Poole because he's polarizing this and that, and I get it. I do get it. But based on the production, based on his NBA championship, based on where he's at, his age versus CJ, it just seems to me that this is a better path. And given the fact that I have a hard time signing people, I'm New Orleans, maybe it does make sense for me to get a young guy like this who's starting to enter his prime. If I get him once he's entering his prime, maybe I love what I see next season. He has a breakout year, and all of a sudden I can negotiate with him and keep him here. He can be acclimated in my situation. If I have to choose between who I'd rather sign, 31-year-old CJ McCollum or 25, 24-year-old, whatever it is, Jordan Poole, I'm going to say Jordan Poole would be the guy I'd rather be forced to sign if I'm a small market that can't attract nobody. You know what I mean? That's how I'm looking at that. So for me, I didn't see nothing wrong with that trade for the Washington Wizards or the New Orleans Pelicans. I thought it was a good trade when you consider what is up ahead and which one of these players look better for these situations. They both look better in the situations they landed in the situation they were in. So that's my thing. I never had a problem with that, and I don't hate him as an asset just in general. I think he's all right. And I think he's very talented, and I think if he has his head on straight and can kind of be coached up the right way, you can still turn him into something. So like this is what I'm saying to you guys. I don't hate what New Orleans Pelicans have. I really don't. From top to bottom, they don't have a bad roster at all. Carlo Metovic, we talk about him all the time. The Carlo guy, he's pretty good. Brandon Boston, he looks great. People don't even know how good he was last year, but he was damn good. Definitely a nice asset to acquire right now. So they don't have bad assets. In fact, they have good assets. DeJounte Murray, when healthy, when he's playing at his peak, is a desirable piece. We've seen that over the last 2 summers with teams trying to go after him, particularly my Lakers, constantly in conversations about having this kid. So why would I think that he's not going to be any good? As a trade piece, come him returning back to what it is he could do, if I give him an opportunity to do it, he might be able to be that way. And I could trade him again at a higher level than I would be able to right now. So you're starting the season with DeJounte. Probably going to give Jeremiah a year behind him. And hopefully you could trade DeJounte when his value goes up. Trigger of trade for him, proving that he's able to bounce back from this injury. Because he's on like a 3-year deal, so it's going to be harder to move him without people actually seeing him be himself. It's going to be harder. So, you know, I don't like that asset too much, but it's not like the urgency to move him is as dire as maybe one would think. Because I don't think Jeremiah's ready. He got to put on a lot of strength. So, yeah, and then Derek Queen is like, you know, there's a lot of people who love Derek Queen out there. He's a good trade piece if you want to move him, so long as he doesn't get hurt or crash and burn his rookie season and drop in value. But if you can put him in positions to look like himself, which I don't know if they can do or not, but if they can put him in positions to look good, his value could potentially go up. You know, he's a gamer. We know that. He's got a big body, great for the NBA. He's got some things you can't teach. His jump shot can improve, but he's a rookie. He's a young player, so I think the future is pretty bright for Derek Queen, so long as he just put him in a position to get the ball in his hands and just do what he does. And so I don't hate what the Pelicans have. I just don't know that it fits together. In fact, I'm willing to bet it doesn't fit together. But that doesn't mean that you can't move certain pieces around and suddenly have a dynamic that's attractive to you. And so that's what I think about the Pelicans. And some of what they have isn't bad. They got some good shooting. They got some intangible pieces. They can use another defender here or there, but they got some good stuff, man. They got some good stuff. So I don't know. Could they use a bit more of a forward direction? Could they use more of a singular focus on what it is that they are? Yeah. Could they use more two-way talent? Yes. Are they, based on what those players are worth, could they get that two-way talent? I think they can. I think they can, man. I think those pieces are valuable enough to where you can trade them for stuff that you want. And so that's really what it's about. Is your stuff valuable? Does anybody want what you have? If the answer is yes, then you could probably get what you need. So I don't think they're in the worst position. I don't think they can win anything right now. But their asset class is full of young talent. And getting younger was not a bad thing for them. So that's what I see in New Orleans. I think they could be fun next year. I think the Phoenix Suns have more leverage right now than they've probably had in 3 years, based on them being able to get those two centers. It just makes their asset class look a lot better than it did. And now, if I'm them, I don't feel like I have to trade Bradley Beal, not necessarily, but I do have to find a landing spot for Bradley Beal. Devin Booker is who I meant to say. I don't know if I said Bradley Beal. I meant Devin Booker. I don't have to trade Devin Booker. Not necessarily. Because I see a path where Devin Booker can win with them two centers and him and the right stuff around me. I like the idea of having Ryan Dunn and what's his name? Iguodala. Those are good players. Good players to have. I feel like I can package a couple of things that I have now and get something that maybe makes everything fit a bit better. So for me, I don't think they're in the worst spot in the world anymore. It was that trade and that draft pick that landed in both of those bigs that gave them a path to some steady basketball. Because what you end up having is ability to rebound, get easy buckets, block shots, rebound, get easy buckets with either one of those people on the floor. So it stabilizes the uncertainty of all them damn jump shooters, which is what they've been missing all these years. Since they traded Ayton away, which I think was a good idea, they didn't have that center that they could just dump the ball to and get easy buckets, somebody who could swat everything on their defensive end to make up for some of the other stuff that's wrong with them in other areas. Now that they have that, it should open up opportunities for those jump shooters. It should make it so that they feel a lot better about being on the team. Each and every possession should just be more certain to have a higher level to succeed. And that's all you really need. That's why I don't understand why teams forego so many opportunities to get big men. I think the Charlotte Hornets would have had that same dynamic if they chose to. They had Mark Williams, and they had a chance to get the other guy that the Suns just picked up, Milo Watch. But instead, they let both of the people go to the Suns, and now the Suns get to benefit from the higher probability of successful possessions that the Charlotte Hornets were entitled to just if they would have did what they ultimately didn't do. So, I don't know, man. A lot of people like what the Charlotte Hornets did. I don't. Because they don't really have any rim protection. So now they just be holding to a bunch of jump shooters. Either the shot's going to fall or not. It's not going to work. You'd have did better having them bigs. And I think it's the difference. The teams with those, we'll see how Phoenix and Charlotte do next year. I think Phoenix has a higher probability to be happy with what they have. I just think that's the benefit of having not one, but two dominant centers. Two. If one of them get hurt, you got the other one. That's what it's all about. And so I don't know where Charlotte's going to get their interior defense from. But the same center that the Phoenix Suns had when they were struggling with that process is the same center that the Charlotte Hornets have right now. It's just not, I don't know, man. Charlotte was overcorrecting their character concerns. Let's bring in some guys that give us absolutely no trouble. People who are going to look great in the Bible Belt. You know what I mean? Let's bring in some guys that are going to take well to the organization and maybe want to re-sign with us, which makes some sense. But if they can't succeed on the basketball floor, you're going to find out that wasn't the direction you probably should have went in. It was an overcorrection of sorts. And I think Kalkbrenner could help with that, but Kalkbrenner is a second-round center. You can't expect for him to be some world beater necessarily. He had a great college career, but it's the pros, man. So I don't know. That's another reason why I wasn't mad that the Lakers couldn't get Kalkbrenner. I understand how bad we need a center. But is my answer in the second round? A second round value guy? No. That's not my answer at center. If that's going to be the center I plug in and expect to play 40 minutes down there for Luka and LeBron, then I've already failed. You see what I'm saying? I thought the Lakers made the right decision in trading the 37. If Kalkbrenner would have been there, maybe they would have taken him, maybe they wouldn't. But what they got with that pick was first round value. Charlotte taking Kalkbrenner at 34 was second round value. And that's what people need to really, really get into their head, because I feel a lot of people saying, oh, Lakers made a mistake. No, the Lakers did what they were supposed to do. They got a guy who slipped down to the second round. He was supposed to go in the 20s. If you would have taken the guy you wanted to take, you were going to bring up a guy with role player upside and leave a guy with starter upside on the board out of need for fit. And we always say, if you go for fit, a lot of times you're not going to be pleased with that. You know, you're passing up on a good player to get an okay player because he fits what you have, and then you end up finding out you traded away stuff. Now you don't have the same needs, but you do find yourself stuck with that bad player, and having left a good player on the board out of fit. A couple things shake up, a few trades, a few ankles rolls, and all of a sudden you need what it is you left on the board. So it doesn't always translate to making any sense. And so for me, I don't think the Lakers made a mistake at all. You definitely take that power forward that can be explosive and provide yourself some explosiveness that you don't have anywhere else on your roster outside of LeBron James, who's 41 years of age. I don't think you can win that way. Just so you can fit a need for a player like Kalkbrenner, 7'2", he's cool. Don't get it twisted, he's a nice player, but he wasn't expected to go in the first round. He was expected to be drafted exactly where he was drafted. That's fair value for a second round player. The Lakers getting the guy they got, that's first round value falling in the second round. You took the better player, LA. At least that's what it appears to. You don't know what a guy's going to pan out to be. Don't get it twisted. None of this is perfect. But as it pertains to getting value for what you're supposed to, capturing that bubble equity, so to speak, the Lakers definitely did that. They definitely did that. So I just want to say that as we kind of skip away from the Charlotte Hornets, I think Charlotte helped themselves by drafting Kalkbrenner. I think it was a perfect place for him. That's where I thought he would go. And now the Charlotte Hornets can go forward with a high character, regional safe look about their basketball team. because that's really what it's about. They wanted somebody that would take well to Charlotte, and then somebody that Charlotte would take well to. That's really what this is about for them in the draft. And if they happen to get some shooting in the process, that's wonderful. But it was really about character change and just getting away from the hood dude. You're the hood dude that's going to do crazy stuff. And the wily young player that's not going to do nothing but what he wants to do. They don't need no more of that. They've been drafting too much of that. I think they feel. So, and it ain't led to no wins. So, I get it. I really get it. And I think Khan is a great player to have. But if Khan don't have a rim protector, is Khan still Khan? you took Khan, but you left Malawach. Now, you couldn't have them both, but you don't have anybody that's going to be down there rim protecting. So does Khan still look like Khan in this situation? You take into account all that rim protection that was comforting him in Duke? Like, let's just be real. He didn't only have Khan Malawach. Common Malawach. But he also had, of course, Cooper Flagg. Now you bring him to a situation where there ain't no rim protection, but a bunch of people that shoot the ball like crazy? I mean, you think you can get the most out of Khan Knueppel? I don't see it. You got him down there with LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball gonna jack up 33s in one game one day. Watch, it's gonna happen. He gonna jack up 33s in one game. That's my prediction. Before he retires, he's gonna jack up 33s in one game. I ain't kidding. That boy ain't got no conscience. None. And I like LaMelo. Y'all know that I'm a LaMelo fan. I'm a Ball family fan for sure. But I just don't think anybody has ever set him down and say, look, I like volume, but this is craziness. This is nuts, bro. We can't sustain. Nothing's going to sustain this way. You're going to throw your shoulder out shooting this damn much. And you're too big with too much tools in your war chest to not be better defensively. You know what I'm saying? You are too big, too long to be this much of a turnstile defensively while jacking up 33s in one game. They just see it. You know, I don't want to speak out of turn because I do think they have a very promising coach. I do think that right now. But just in general, he needs better coaching. LaMelo Ball has needed better coaching the whole time. He's got all the talent in the world. But somebody got to reel him in. Somebody got to reel him in. And he can't stay healthy with the damn on top of that. And he's on a very, very massive contract on top of that. In a world where not too many people need point guards. So he might be stuck in Charlotte in some ways. I think there would be some market for him, but not a great one. Not on that contract. And so it's just a lot of things LaMelo has done. I don't really know if I believe in him like that. I like him as a player, but I don't think he's going to be the greatest trade target. I don't think he's going to be the guy that once you start to trigger your rebuild, he's about to get you all the picks in the world. No, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I think the team that's going to get him is going to try to lowball you for him based on everything we've already said, including the losing and the injuries. So, and Brandon Miller, you know, the jury's out on Brandon Miller's health, man. And that's what I want to say. There's a couple players in this league right now that I really, really like. But if they have another injury year, bro, they go from being somebody that you can count on to somebody that you just got to start calling injury prone. Jalen Johnson in Atlanta. We're there, bro. We're there. I love him as a player. I think he's fantastic. I think he's all-star level. But the injuries are starting to pile up. I can't seem to get a healthy season out of this guy. Year in and year out, I can't get a healthy season out of this dude. He always in the season hurt. At this point, I'm starting to wonder, is this just who he is? And as these injuries pile up, is he going to come back a little worse each time from here? If I'm Atlanta, it might be in my best interest to start thinking about capturing value for Jalen Johnson because he's still a player that everybody loves so much. You do have a lot of players in the wing spot that you like, probably none more than you like than him. But now we get to a point where it's like, all right, bro, every year you hurt, man. Brandon Miller in Charlotte, same thing. These injuries starting to pile up back to back to back to back, bro. Where we at? Is this going to be who you are? Because this is who you are. I need to move you now before we start going down this path and you start losing value. So this is and they're going to have to pay these people too. Jalen Johnson's going to want money, man. Brandon Miller going to want money. But if they're going to be injury prone, you do not want them on maximum contracts. They got value now. If I'm Charlotte and I'm Atlanta, I'm really considering trading them boys. Really considering trading them. And it's not because I don't believe in their talent. I definitely do believe in their talent. And I think other people do too. That's why I probably want to get out from under this before they prove themselves to be injury prone. This is the time to capture value on the guys that are about to start being injury prone. Just about to start. You got to anticipate those things sometimes. If your franchise is not going to tank, your GM and your front office personnel needs to have a feel for this right here too. We talk about different things. It can make or break your franchise, bro. You got to be able to anticipate when we're starting to go down the curve of a guy who's injury prone. We're on the hill. We're going up the hill. If we start sensing that curve, it may be too late to capture value. You may want to take a chance and get rid of some of these dudes before we start finding out that they are injury prone. Sometimes that's not going to work out in your favor. Sometimes that's going to fail. And I want people to know that. If the Golden State Warriors would have did that with Steph Curry, it would have been the worst decision they ever made in their lives. That is not a foolproof science. But how many times have we seen guys be very, very good and get very, very hurt? How many times have we seen that? They're very, very good, but they get very, very hurt after that. And they slowly but surely, like I said, come back somebody different each and every time. Each and every time you come back around, now they're just a little slower. The lift just starts to dissipate, and you done paid them. Now on year 1 of a 4-year contract, and they can't make it through the season each year. It's like, yo, don't you wish you would have traded them dudes before it got down to this point? And so that's what I want to say, man. I think in a lot of cases, the answer is yes. I think in a lot of cases, the answer is yes. You wish you would have traded them boys. And so this is where I'm at with those particular players, and there's probably a few more that I'm not really thinking of. But Jalen Johnson and Brandon Miller, fam, we're in that space where I feel like it might be wise to jump ahead of that before they start getting the reputation of being injury prone. Move them while everybody's still super excited about them boys. Because I think most people are. Jalen Johnson, oh man. People are excited about Jalen Johnson. Brandon Miller, hell yeah. I'd love to have Brandon Miller on all of these teams. But if we start going down a path where they start turning into injury-prone players, you harken back to this video. Because I would have considered, maybe not done it, but would have considered pulling the trigger on them today. I move them now. Yep, we getting out of that now, right now. Because it's not as simple when you have A1 stars. A guy like Jason Tatum, you're not about to do that with. A guy like Donovan Mitchell, you're not about to do that with. But these are the guys that are underneath their tier, who likely don't have that ceiling, but are still people that everybody wants, likely to make 1 or 2 All-Stars in their career. You can afford to jump out ahead of them while that value is captured, with them starting to go up the injury-prone hill. I'm moving them both, or at least considering it. I'm thinking about it. I'm praying on it. I'm meditating on it heavily, because I don't think either one of those organizations would be best for finding out them boys injury prone. I don't think so. I don't think Atlanta's best for that, and I definitely don't think Charlotte's best for that. And so, like, these are the type of things, man, because them type of dudes, them B-level, star-level guys, above starter-level guys, you got to really pay them, man. You got to pay them people a lot of money, $200 million sometimes. And you get them on them damn contracts and they only playing 45 games a year. And your team's still getting ousted in the first round or worse. I'm not letting it happen, bro. I've been watching this NBA for too damn long not to consider that right there, that's something I always wish, as I think of myself in a GM's position, I always wish I traded them dudes at this level. Right here. This is when, like, yeah, you got to move them boys. You know, I hate to say it, but there's one of my guys, I already mentioned him. I hate to say it, but if I'm going to say this about Jalen Johnson and say this about Brandon Miller, I have to say it about Trigger Murphy III in New Orleans. He's kind of in that boat, y'all. He's kind of in that boat. He's kind of in the boat of, I know I'm going to have to pay him a lot of money. The whole NBA loves him. But he has had some injury issues in consecutive seasons to where if we go down this path any further and he gets another injury or two, now all of a sudden a lot of that value I can't capture. Now I got to move him, and I'm not going to get the most for him after that third injury, that fourth injury. I think excellent organizations often find themselves getting lucky in these areas. They make the right decision with a gamble in this regard. That's what I think. The good organizations, they find a way to make this part of the game land in their favor. And when it comes to injuries, it really does come down to, guessing if it makes sense to keep a guy or move him. But when it comes to B-level stars that are really, really touted and really, really exciting and fit in a lot of situations, wings and stuff like that, shooters and stuff like that, guys that people want a lot, really bad, it might be in your best interest to pull the trigger, capture all that super value before you go down that path. And so that's pretty much what I have, man. That's what's on my mind, man. Some things you just got to get lucky with, bro. You just got to get lucky. And in some cases, you got to gamble. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.